Welcome back to Filmmaster Reviews. I'm Adam J. The following list is a list I've actually been putting off doing for a long time because I watch so many comic book films and I love and hate so many comic book films that this list proved incredibly difficult to make. It really did. All three of the lists that I've created for this subject were very difficult to really narrow down and make. So it was a very hard process, but I am officially splitting this into three lists. This one is my top 13 favorite Marvel films. The next one will be my top 13 favorite non-Marvel films. Yes, I know the title needs work, I'll think of something. And the third one will be a worst of list of sorts. I'm not going to reveal the title until it premieres, but yeah, know that that's coming. So, yeah, you all asked for it, here it is. These are my top 13 favorite Marvel comic book movies.
Unpack the flowers, darling, roll out the lawn.
Well, folks, it all comes down to this, so let's get started. Number 13 is Elektra, the Hand in the Devil. This is a 20-something minute fan film produced by Blinky Studios. This is a studio known for making fan films with a lot of heart and integrity, and I really enjoy their work. Even when they only do trailers, they are all awesome. However, this is my favorite achievement from them, showcasing Elektra's death at the hands of Bullseye, as well as her relationship and battle with Matt Murdock, also known as Daredevil. As far as short fan films go, they got everything right that they had to get right. The lighting is weak in some scenes, and the acting isn't perfect, but this isn't exactly a $1 million production either. It was a labor of love made by fans for fans, and it certainly deserves a spot in this list. Number 12, The Incredible Hulk. Yeah, the 2003 Hulk movie was pretty bad, but The Incredible Hulk from Marvel Studios was just awesome. I love Edward Norton as the title character, more so than Mark Ruffalo, and keep in mind, I really like Ruffalo. But Norton just embraced the character's inner turmoil and gave us a Bruce Banner tortured and conflicted with the monster within. The Hulk himself has never looked better than in this film. All the details that went into this design made him look flawless, and I damn near shit my pants when he said Hulk smash for the first time. Not to mention Tim Roth as the villain, Blonsky, aka the Abomination, was a great casting choice. Out of all the lead-up films to the Avengers, this one was by far my favorite. Number 11, X-Men. The X-Men film series is extremely hit and miss for me, ranging from wonderful to okay to just downright awful. However, I will never forget seeing the first X-Men movie on the big screen for the first time. I had such a blast, and this is still a movie I love watching. All I wanted from this movie as a kid going into it was X-Men on one side, the Brotherhood on the other, a big VS in the middle, go. That's what I got from this film. I do have a few complaints. I didn't like the identical uniforms, which, while inspired by the Ultimate Comics, still didn't do much to distinguish each X-Man. I didn't like the Ultimate Comics, so naturally I wasn't a fan of these uniforms. I also hated how they took Rogue and gave her the personality of Kitty Pryde. Rogue is supposed to be this total badass, sexy Southern belle. Here, she's more of a frightened child who needs to be saved. I really wasn't for that. However, I liked the rest of the movie quite a bit. I got the X-Men versus the Brotherhood plain and simple. The issues of racism and prejudice that are spread throughout all the X-Men comics, with the exception of this piece of shit, is wonderfully shown and executed in this film. To this day, I really find Magneto's plan in this movie to be absolute genius. Turning all the world leaders into mutants? That's just fucking brilliant. Lastly, what can be said about the casting? It's perfect. Patrick Stewart, Halle Berry, Ian McKellen, and of course, everyone's favorite, Anna Paquin. Oh, and it introduced us to this guy, Hugh Jackman. You may have heard of him. I think he hosted the Oscars and fucking killed it back in the day or something. Number 10, The Punisher, 2004. I have loved this movie since its release, and I still love it now. Like the comic, the film follows Frank Castle, played by Thomas Jane, as he becomes a vigilante delivering punishment after mobsters hired by Howard Saint butcher his family. Thomas Jane delivers a great performance as this character, and is still the definitive Punisher as far as I'm concerned. I love how Michael France and Jonathan Hansley made Castle a conflicted character, dealing with his losses while also making him the badass we all know and love from the comics. There is nothing wrong with making him a conflicted character, as it makes him more interesting and, more importantly, relatable. If you lost your entire family, how would you feel? The film goes out of its way to address the issues that would haunt anyone in this situation. John Travolta was another highlight of this film as the villain Howard Saint. Watching him in this, it was clear he was having so much fun playing this character. While Saint wasn't a character from the comics, the film does manage to fit Punisher baddies Harry Heck and the Russian into its runtime. I also really enjoyed how it incorporated the Boarders, who try to help Castle maintain his humanity, and in the end help him find a new purpose in life, thus saving his own. After the crapfest that was Punisher Warzone, I can only hope that Marvel will realize what a gem they had in this movie and bring Jane back. Probably won't happen, but I can dream, can't I? Next is a film that I didn't even realize was a Marvel film until recently. It was released by Icon Comics, which is actually a subdivision of Marvel. So, close call, but I definitely think that Kick-Ass deserves the number 9 spot. The film is funny, ballsy, and non-stop fun. I loved the idea of having kids try and be vigilantes only to have the real world catch up to them and knock them back down. It's a very cool premise. Aaron Taylor Johnson is really funny as the title character, and even better as Nicolas Cage, playing this ghetto Batman character who teaches his little girl how to throw knives and kill people. Speaking of which, Chloe Grace Moretz is wonderful as Hit Girl. It's not every day you see a 9-year-old slicing up criminals and calling them cunts. That's just awesome.
Okay, you cunts. Let's see what you can do now.
Number 8. The Amazing Spider-Man films. Both of them. This may baffle a lot of people given my initial review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I'll go into that in a moment. It took me a while to warm up to the sequel, but I have loved The Amazing Spider-Man since the day I saw it. It took a different approach than the Raimi films, it established a darker and much smarter tone, and it gave us Andrew Garfield, who is bar none the superior Spider-Man. Better than Maguire in every way. He's much more likable, he's funnier, he fits the Spider-Man persona a lot better, and most of all, for the first time in a Spider-Man movie, we actually see this character be a genius. He's not just mentioned as a genius or perceived as a genius like the Raimi films established. We actually see him do things a genius would be able to do. Create web shooters, breaking security codes, putting together his uniform for the first time. This is what we should have been seeing in the Raimi films, not, oh look, large microscope, it's so unreal. The chemistry between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield is fantastic, and would only get better in the sequel. Their real-life relationship truly shines through in their performances as Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. Emma Stone is the definitive Gwen Stacy as far as I'm concerned. Bryce Dallas Howard sucks. I love Rhys Ifans in this movie as both Kirk Connors and the Lizard. He's one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, and they did do him a fair amount of justice. But I wish a little more had been done with the character after he became the Lizard. Once that happens, it becomes pretty routine. Not bad, but not particularly great either. The action is very fun to sit through, and Mark Webb addressed something that Raimi never addressed. The fuck are Peter's parents? Hell, the comics barely talked about them, so it was nice to actually get a halfway decent explanation for once. The sequel was a movie that I damn near hated the first time I saw it. However, after watching it many more times and gaining a better understanding of what it wanted to do and what it wanted to be, I loved The Amazing Spider-Man 2 to fucking pieces. Again, when I first saw it, I didn't get it. I truly didn't understand what the movie was trying to be about. However, I have seen it countless more times. There was always something that just kept me coming back for more. I saw this film 11 times in the theater, and I've watched it a few times more since buying it on Blu-ray. I'm not going to talk too much about it since I have my History of Spider-Man review coming up for it, but I will mention some things I have grown to love and appreciate about the film. First are the themes of time, loneliness, and abandonment, which carry over to many characters in the film and sadly decide most of their fates. Second, Spidey swinging around has never looked better. Third, the acting in the film is phenomenal all around. Garfield and Stone have wonderful chemistry, just like the first film. Garfield's humor as Spider-Man is spot on. Jamie Foxx is great as Electro. Sally Field is amazing as always. And even Dane DeHaan's Harry Osborn, who I initially wasn't a fan of, has actually become one of my favorite things in the movie. Again, I'll go into more detail in my History of Spider-Man review, but I honestly wish I had waited to do my initial review of the film. Does the film have problems? Absolutely. But in regards to my initial thoughts on The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I can concede that I was wrong. After 4 years of building it up, in 2012, we the fans finally got to see The Avengers. The Avengers is a film that is the very definition of a good time. It's action-packed, funny, incredibly well shot, and most of all, fun. It gave me exactly what I wanted from the first Avengers movie. I just wanted a fun action movie with some of my favorite Marvel characters kicking ass together, and that's what I got. The Avengers didn't need to be high art for its first round. It just had to be fun and memorable. I will say though, if Age of Ultron doesn't deliver something smarter next year, I will have issues. Tom Hiddleston returns as Loki this time around, and he's even better here than he was in Thor. He's funnier, he's wittier, and his character is a lot more interesting. While I stand by that The Avengers is an entirely storyless movie, it's really the characters, the funny dialogue, and the heart-stopping action that really pulls it through and makes it a memorable romp from start to finish. While low on story, The Avengers is big on action, big on development, and big on fun. The Avengers just rocks. Number 6 is Iron Man 3. This movie has a lot of people split down the middle, but personally, I loved every second of it. Not only was this the first Iron Man movie to truly delve into the psychology of Tony Stark's character, but it was the first Marvel Studios film to do something creative with its villain. The villains we were given before ranged from cool to fun to just downright awful, but this movie didn't just say, here's another villain for the hero to beat up. It opted to instead get creative and make the terrorist, known as the Mandarin, an idea to instill fear into the hearts of Americans rather than just another punching bag for the hero. This was not only unique, but insanely plausible, and made for a great social commentary for how we as Americans view evil as a face. Osama bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, Michael Bay, and Night Shyamalan, you get where I'm going with this. These were very clever ideas created by Drew Pearson and Shane Black, who were more interested in making a good movie with a superb story instead of another 2-fucking-hour Avengers trailer. That's all this movie was. It was just a fucking Avengers trailer. Action is awesome, the story is top-notch, the dialogue is hilarious most of the time, and by God, Robert Downey Jr. has never been better as Tony Stark. Rather than just having him be a man filled with regret like the first film or whatever bullshit they were trying to do in Iron Man 2 when they just didn't care, Iron Man 3 actually shows Tony Stark having mental breakdowns, panic attacks, massive anxiety issues, and nightmares over the events in the Avengers. We see this character from mostly a psychological level. It's not just him in the suit kicking ass all the time. Hell, in this film he kicks ass even without the suit. But most of all, this film understood that Tony's greatest gift and asset as a hero is not his suit of armor, it's not his money, it's not his weapons. His greatest gift is his intelligence, and the film perfectly demonstrates that for once. It's Tony who makes the suit, not the other way around. With or without the suit, Tony is Iron Man. I love the action, I love the story, I love the character development. Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man film and one of the most unique films to come from Marvel Studios, period. Okay, I'm really gonna piss a lot of people off with this next one. Oh God, I can just see all the hate mail flooding my inbox now. Many of you will probably unsubscribe like you've never done before. But I gotta be honest here, guys. For over a decade, it's been one of my favorite comic book films, and I need to address it. Number 5 is Daredevil. The director's cut. Hear me out. The original cut of Daredevil is far from perfect, but I still really enjoyed it. The director's cut of Daredevil, however, is a criminally underrated masterpiece among an endless sea of forgotten comic book films. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Many people who hated the version released in theaters have watched the director's cut and loved it. So while I'm still in the minority, at least I'm not alone here. Daredevil is a film about an attorney named Matt Murdock who was blinded as a kid, and soon after suffered the tragic death of his father by the hands of Wilson Fisk. Being blinded, however, enhanced his other senses tenfold, which, ironically, through sound and touch, allows him to see better than anyone, giving him perfect balance and agility. This leads to him becoming the vigilante known as Daredevil, crime fighter by night, attorney seeking justice for honest clients by day. The film stars Ben Affleck, who is and will always be Daredevil as far as I'm concerned. I don't care how awesome he looks as Batman, he was Daredevil first, goddammit. Don't give me that crap that Stan Lee hates this movie. He only hates it because it's not based on the Daredevil he wrote. It's based on the Frank Miller version, or as I like to call it, the good version. This film sees this character learning as he goes along with being a vigilante, both questioning and realizing for himself what true justice means. One of my favorite scenes in this film is when he beats up a street thug and is witnessed by a little boy who is frightened of him and sees him as a bad guy. This shows the hero struggling with what he does and how he does it. He lets a guy die on the C train track in the beginning of the film, but in the end will not kill the Kingpin, even when he has the perfect opportunity, because he finally realizes that there is a line between justice and vengeance. He is not the bad guy, he just wants justice done. Colin Farrell and Michael Clarke Duncan are just fantastic as the villains. Both of them are clearly having a great time playing their characters, and both take full advantage of what they have. Rest in peace, good sir. Sin City 2 just was not the same without you. Now I will concede that they could have gotten a better actress for Elektra, as Jennifer Garner really doesn't look the part, but I personally thought she was fine regardless of that. Keep in mind, I'm saying fine for this film, not for the crappy spin-off. My God, did that suck. I love the story for this film. I love the scenes of Daredevil fighting and jumping around on the rooftops. The scene of him and Elektra in the rain is still one of my favorite comic book movie moments. And as far as I'm concerned, the Daredevil director's cut nailed every single point it had to. If you have not seen this cut of the film, you are doing yourself a grave injustice. No pun intended. While I am pissed that there was not a sequel to this film, I am willing to give the new guy a shot, but my God, the black Hamburglar outfit has seriously gotta go. Coming in at number 4 is Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is, to date, my favorite Spider-Man film. Not because it has the better acting, because it clearly doesn't. Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst can't act their way out of a fucking paper bag, and they have about as much chemistry as a rack of lamb and a tuna fish sandwich. I don't think it's the best acted Spider-Man film, thank you. It doesn't even have the best moments of Spidey swinging around, thank you again. But it is the Spider-Man film with the best and most meaningful story, as well as the best Spider-Man movie villain to date. I mean, Alfred Molina was just perfect. The only one that even came close was Rhys Ifans as the Lizard, but Molina's portrayal as Dr. Octavius was just wonderful all around. Not a single flaw to be seen. Those are the two things that elevate it so highly for me. This is a film that really delves into the inner torment of a superhero. Peter Parker in this film is torn between being Spider-Man and having his own life, and because being Spider-Man seems to be destroying that life, he quits being Spider-Man. He just says, I can't do this anymore, and his life does improve. However, the city begins to suffer for this. And it's at this time that Peter truly learns that with great power comes great responsibility. It gives us the message that sometimes, in order to do what's right, we have to give up the things we love the most, even our dreams. Despite Dunst and Maguire not being able to act worth a damn, the dialogue in the film is expertly written and helps pull them through. The writing is what makes this movie as good as it is. If you like the new films better because of the acting, the effects, the action scenes, the much better Spider-Man, and the overall plot, I will totally back you. But as far as story and baddies are concerned, Spider-Man 2 is the best, and the most important Spider-Man film. Okay, now I was flipping between the next 3 movies a lot because I love these movies so much that it was very hard for me to choose which one I liked the most. At number 3 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This was a wonderful spy action thriller with a great cast and an incredibly smart story. The storytelling in this film is so great and suspenseful that it had me on the edge of my seat the whole movie. The whole idea of our world's security being compromised by a terrorist organization created a nice and chilling social commentary, and Chris Evans has never been better in this role. Back in the day, people were doubting Evans being able to play Captain America, and even when he did, and did it well, they complained he wasn't badass enough. Yeah, to those people, I suggest watching this movie and eating your words. Chris Evans is entirely badass while still maintaining the spirit of Captain America, and how he represents American spirit rather than American government. I also love how they worked Black Widow and Nick Fury into the story, making them indispensable to the plot, instead of just shoving them in there to tease other shit like Iron Man 2 did. And as far as the Winter Soldier as a character goes, I really hope he gets his own movie somewhere down the line, because I will be the first online. Number 2, X-Men Days of Future Past. This is not only the best X-Men film, but it manages to fix a lot of the problems that Brett Ratner created with X-Men The Last Stand. Singer unites the X-Men from the First Class series and the X-Men from the original films, and combines them through time travel to create the ultimate X-Men movie that I have been waiting for. He also manages to wipe the slate clean, making it both a love letter to the fans as well as a strongly worded apology letter in movie form. There really wasn't anything that bothered me in this film. I mean, if I had to nitpick something, I'd say, well, the movie could have used more Quicksilver. Quicksilver is perfectly realized by actor Evan Peters, who embodies the role and feels like he was ripped straight from the comics. And my god, the scene where he breaks Magneto out of prison is masterfully handled. Sorry, but I don't think Mr. Blanky Blank from Godzilla has so much as a prayer in topping this performance, but I guess we'll see in May. This film really gave each actor a chance to shine and be memorable. Jennifer Lawrence gives us the most accurate portrayal of Mystique yet. Michael Fassbender is still the best Magneto ever put on screen, and James McAvoy gives the best performance in the film as a rugged, broken down Charles Xavier. I'd talk about Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but seriously, who hasn't at this point? X-Men Days of Future Past is a wonderful film, and I loved every minute of it. I can only hope that Apocalypse will be just as good, if not better. Well, you haven't seen it yet, so I'm sure you've probably guessed by now that my favorite Marvel film of all time is Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I don't think this is the best written Marvel film. I don't even think it's the best acted Marvel film, or even the best directed. But I have also never had more fun watching any other Marvel film. Not even the Avengers, which survived solely on being fun. This trumps it on every level. And not only was it fun, but I'm also getting unforgettable characters, superb character development, a very well thought out story, great casting, beautiful choreographed action, some of the best set pieces I've ever witnessed, and some of the best humor ever put in any comic book movie. This is a movie that made you feel for a talking tree. Not just the people, a talking fucking tree. And a talking raccoon with the talking tree. If that doesn't deserve some sort of award, I don't know what does. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, and Bradley Cooper all bring their A-games to this film, portraying these different outcasts who come together for a common goal. With a simple premise, James Gunn knew that the heart of this film was the characters and their interactions together, and it all pays off beautifully. Is the movie pitch perfect? No, but then again, I don't think any comic book movie is. Avengers survived solely on being fun. Days of Future's Past needed more Quicksilver. The Winter Soldier needed more, well, Winter Soldier. Seriously, guys, he was the subtitle. Put him in a few more scenes is all I'm saying. Spider-Man 2 had horrendous leads. Even some of the best comic book movies have their problems, but this film is so well crafted that the few and far between problems it does have are very easy to overlook. This film is unforgettable from start to finish. It's one of the best space operas ever put to film, and the vast array of life forms and planets we see in the film leaves the Marvel Cinematic Universe open for even more possibilities. I vote Nova. And, well, Nathan Fillion as Nova, but that's just me. High five if you agree. Guardians of the Galaxy was just released in August. It's still in theaters. I've seen it so many times that I've lost count, and to date, it is my favorite Marvel comic book film. I want to know, what are your favorite Marvel films? Please let me know in the comment box below. Please subscribe and tune in a few days for my top 13 favorite non-Marvel comic book films. Yeah, the title needs work. See you next time.